G Series LOVOL Gushan Rice Machine. Dear users, the type of thrashing cleaning system adopts single longitudinal axial flow roller plus double-deck vibrating screen platform. The machine can complete cutting, thrashing, separating, and cleaning at one time to prevent failures of rice harvesters and ensure high quality, high efficiency, low energy consumption, and safety work. Proper maintenance, operation, and adjustment are needed. In order to use this machine correctly, please read the instructions and view the following maintenance and adjustment procedures of the LOVOL Gushan Rice Machine to learn more about product performance, operation, and maintenance methods. 1. Adjustment and maintenance of header system. 1. To adjust the clearance between moving blade and guard. Adjustment method. Swing arm of swing ring mechanism shall be located in corresponding extreme position. Loosen bolts and remove the positions between tool bit and shrapnel. Center lines of blades and blade protector shall coincide with no more than 5 mm deviation. 2. To adjust the dip angle of the reel spring tooth. Adjustment method. Adjust the reel to extreme lower position. Then adjust the header down to the ground. Shut down the engine. Loosen eccentric adjusting bolts of eccentric adjusting plate. Adjust the setting adjusted plate to a proper angle and tighten the bolts. 3. To adjust the front and rear position of the reel. Adjust the method. Loosen the lock nut on the tensioning wheel frame and remove the drive belt. Remove the fixed latch. Move the reel. Left and right move shall be simultaneously. Keep unanimous position of fixed hose sides on both ends and insert the latch. Install drive belt after adjustment of reel position completed. Readjust the tensioning wheel to make proper tensioning for drive belt. Critical items. When the reel is placed at extreme lower position and the end, the minimum distance between elastic claw and the fitting auger blade edge and the blade protector should be no less than 10 mm to ensure operation effectiveness and avoid important components to prevent failure from intervene. 4. To adjust revolving speed of the reel. Adjustment method. Adjust the header to extreme lower position, shut down the engine, and disassemble the reel bonnet. Adjust the spacer quantities between dynamic disc and stator disc. Adjustment reference. 1. Revolving speed of reel shall be maximum when there is no spacer between dynamic disc and stator disc. Revolving speed of reel shall be reduced gradually when the spacer quantities between no discs are growing have been reduced. 2. Revolving speed of reel can be adjusted for slower when low-speed harvest is carried out, and revolving speed can be adjusted for faster when high-speed harvest is conducted. 5. Adjust the clearance between the auger blade and header base plate. Adjustment method. Loosen fitting auger drive chain tensioner first. Then loosen the nuts of adjusting bolts on right and left wall of header. Loosen lock nut. Offside adjusting plate, lift up left side adjusting slider. Lifting or landing feeding auger for adjusting clearance. The following works must be completed. 1. Check the depth of parallelism of the feeding auger and the header base plate and make sure there are consistent intervals along the header. 2. Check and adjust the tensity of the feeding auger chain. 3. Check scalability of the telescopic tooth. Measure whether the interval is appropriate, usually 5 mm to 10 mm. 4. Tighten all the nuts on both sides of the header wall. Adjustment reference. The clearance between the fitting auger blade and the header base plate for general crops, 10 mm to 15 mm. For sparse short stalk crops, 5 mm to 10 mm. For dense high stalk crops, 15 mm to 20 mm. 6. To adjust the clearance between the telescopic tooth and the header base plate. Adjustment method. Loosen bolts and adjust the angle of adjusting slider. The clearance between the telescopic tooth and header base plate can be changed. Adjustment reference. General crops shall be adjusted 5 mm to 10 mm. For dense high-stalk crops, overhang shall be increased before telescopic tooth in order to grab crops, and lashing crops can be avoided. Important matter. 1. The clearance between the telescopic tooth and the header base plate shall not be less than 5 mm. 2. The clearance between the telescopic tooth and the header base plate shall be adjusted properly. Otherwise, it will cause a series of failures of blocking, crops damage, etc. 7. To adjust the conveying chain harrow tensity. Adjustment method. Open axis cover adjusted position of adjusting nut on the adjusting screw. Ensure the conveying chain harrow has no contact with fitting auger blade of header. Generally, there are 2 to 3 chain harrows have slight contact with gap bridge base blade of middle port during idle running. If the chain is too long, loosen the adjusting bolts and remove the chain harrow. Cut 1 to 2 sections of chain sheets properly. Transition section can be added or removed when necessary. 8. Maintenance of conveyor trowel bearing. Grease can be applied at the nozzle of axle sleeve every week. 2. Adjustment and maintenance of thrashing cleaning system. 1. Maintenance of roller transfer box. Disassemble the shield of transfer box. Open oil hole of the transfer box. Check oil quantity, oil product to add or replace the oiling until there is no oil slip over from oil hole. Model of gear oil. GL585W90 gear oil. 2. Adjustment of clearance between thrashing roller and concave. Adjustment method. Thrashing clearance can be adjusted through changing installation positions of ratch seat and radial disc. To achieve 4 clearances of 8, 13, 18, and 23, delivery state, the thrashing clearance shall be 18 mm. Adjustment reference. Damp crops, small clearance shall be adopted. Dry crops, large clearance shall be adopted. 3. Adjustment of straw guide board. Open roller cover when clip band has large losses. Remove 1 or 2 straw guide boards as needed. Disassembling principle. Start from the second board, third board, and every 5 boards. 4. Adjustment of air volume of draught fan. 1. Add spacers between the driver wheel and the fixed wheel will revolve faster. Reduce spacers, and the fan will revolve slower. Note: pay attention to belt tightening pulley after the adjustment is completed. 2. Adjust air volume by adjusting the opening of air shutters. Tighten butterfly nut to produce more coincides of 2 air shutters. Then larger air intake can be produced to bring more air volume. Otherwise, the air volume will be reduced. 5. Adjustment of cleaning screen opening. Adjustment method. Open the inspection hole covers on the left wall to tighten 2 lock bolts. Make the adjustment panel rotating around the rotor. The opening of mesh pieces will get larger when counterclockwise running. The opening of mesh pieces will get smaller when clockwise running. Tighten lock bolts and install inspection hole cover after the adjustment is completed. Adjustment reference. Large opening of mesh pieces shall be applied when there is large cleaning loss. The opening can be reduced properly when the grain margin has a large amount of residue. 6. Adjustment of tailing screen angle. The tailing screen angle shall be adjusted timely as the maturity and growth of crops. The tailing screen shall be installed at large angle position when there is a large amount of grain loss. The tailing screen shall be adjusted downward to reduce angle when there's a large amount of short stalks in residue. Protecting the vast short stalks to block the residue auger. 7. Check of elevator auger for grain and residue. Peep drawers are provided at the bottom of auger, and wear and tear of auger shall be checked frequently, which shall be replaced timely if the wear and the tear is seriously. Chains inside two lockets shall be applied with engine oil on their surface frequently. The oiling can be conducted through oil filler hole on sprocket box by pressure oil can directly. 8. Maintenance of elevator residue transfer box and elevator grain transfer box. 1. Maintenance of auger gearbox of residue elevator. Check inner or level of gearbox frequently, disassemble and check bolts the lubricant can be overflow. Gear oil GL585W90 must be applied inside gearbox. 2. Maintenance of grain elevating transfer box. Infusing lithium-based grease before or after operating. Capacity about 200 grams. 3. Adjustment and maintenance of grain setting system. Large grain tank type. 1. Maintenance of grain unloading auger transfer box and vertical auger transfer box. 1. Maintenance of grain unloading auger transfer box, using oil scale to check inner oil level of gearbox regularly. To ensure the oil level between the two lines of the oil scale. Model of gear oil GL585W90. 2. Maintenance of vertical auger transmission box, infusing lithium-based grease before or after operating. Capacity about 200 grams. 4. Adjustment and maintenance of the chassis system. 1. Adjustment and maintenance of the tracks. The new tracks shall be checked and adjusted after being used for 20 hours. Move the harvesters to a flat place and stop the engines. The harvesters shall be jacked up with a jack on the cement or other hard grounds. Make the tracks hang in the air of about 10 centimeters from the ground. Adjust tracks so that the clearance between middle of the lower tracks and the thrust wheels is 10 to 15 millimeters. When adjusting, loosen the lock pins first. Draw out the locking plates and then adjust the tension screws. When adjusting the tracks backward, the guiding wheels shall be moved backward and the tracks shall be tensioned. When adjusting the tracks forward, the tracks shall be loosened. Install the locking plates after the adjustment of left and right tracks. Insert the lock pin and to remove the slippers and jacks. Special note: in order to better meet your operating needs, please perform a left and right exchange between rubber tracks and driven wheels when the vehicle has operated for about 200 hours. Translation exchange: do not rotate. To avoid overwearing and tearing the rubber tracks and the driven wheels in the latter operating process of your vehicle, which will affect your normal harvesting operations. 2. Lubrication of the thrust wheels of chassis and guiding wheels. Remove the thrust wheels and the screws on the outside of the guiding wheels. Fill oil with butter until the oil flowing out and then install the removed screws. Frequency: once a week. 3. Adjustment of the steering cylinder clearance. Special notes: raise the headers to the highest position before making this adjustment. Be sure to lock the security frames and support the headers before the maintenance. Adjustment method: loosen the nuts and adjust the bolts. The distance between the limit adjustment bolts and the steering pitman arms shall be controlled at 0.5 mm to 1 mm. After adjustment, lock the nuts. 4. Maintenance of gearbox. 1. Check method of gearbox oil level. It is advisable to disassemble the oil level plugs of the gearbox where lubricant can just outflow. Check frequency: 100 hours per time. 2. Replacement of gearbox lubricant. Replacement frequency: the first time after 50 hours. After the second time once a year. Lubricant model: GL585W 90 gear oil. Capacity about 9.3 liters. 5. Adjustment and maintenance of the hydraulic system. 1. Check of hydraulic fluid surface. Check method. Put all hydraulic cylinders back and make the headers falling to the ground. Open the oil return caps of hydraulic fluid tank to check the liquid level. If the distance from the surface of hydraulic fluid to a mounting surface of oil filler is greater than 40 millimeters, oil shall be filled. Filling method. After refilling, run the engines at an idle state for about 1 minute. Then shut down the engines. Wait for more than 5 minutes and check them again. When the amount of oil is insufficient, please add it to the special value. Model of hydraulic oil. LHM46 anti-wearing hydraulic oil. Replacement frequency. First time, after 50 hours. After the second time, every 250 hours per time. Capacity. About 18 liters. 2. Maintenance of HST oil suction filter and hydraulic oil tank suction filter element. Replacement frequency first time, after 50 hours. After the second time, every 250 to 300 hours per time. Note: smear the sealed surface of the new filters with clean hydraulic fluid in replacing. 3. Maintenance of HST hydraulic variable transmission. When replacing the hydraulic fluid, clean hydraulic fluid must be fully filled from the HST oil filler before the operation. Model of hydraulic oil, LHM46 anti-wearing hydraulic oil. Replacement frequency. Synchronize with hydraulic fluid replacement. Capacity, about 1 liter. 6. Adjustment and maintenance of electrical system. 1. Maintenance of the storage battery. Cleaning of storage battery. Clean the storage battery every time in each shift. Scrub each binding post with a brush. Smear the binding posts of storage battery and cable connector clips with petroleum or Vaseline. Check the charge density indicators on the upper covers of storage battery in each shift. According to the color displayed, confirm whether charging or replacement is needed. The green color display shows that the battery is okay, while the black color shows it needed to be charged, and the white color shows it is scrapped and needed to be replaced. Note: 1. When disassembling the storage battery, first disassemble the negative pole and then the positive pole. When installing, first install the positive pole and then the negative pole. 2. Do not use the dry cloth to wipe and clean the storage battery to prevent the occurrence of static electricity accident. 2. Maintenance of the generator. Check whether all binding posts of the generator are loosened in each shift. Check the tensity of the generator belt. Under normal circumstances, it is appropriate to press the belts between the two pulleys with 15 millimeters of curvature. 3. Maintenance of the starter. For the starter, all binding posts of it shall be mainly checked, whether they are loosened and corroded and whether the fusible lines are fused. 7. Adjustment and maintenance of power system. 1. Check of engine oil. Check method. When the engine stops moving for more than 5 minutes, the engine oil scale should be drew out. Check whether the engine oil is between the two scale lines. Check frequency. Before or after the operation. Replacement frequency. See the engine operating instruction. Model of the engine oil. See the engine instruction. Note: when replacing the engine oil filter must be replaced at the same time. Please come to the LOVOL Agricultural Equipment Service Station or the LOVOL Agricultural Equipment authorized dealers to purchase genuine engine oil and engine oil filters. 2. Check of fuel volume in the fuel tank. Before or after operation, Check the fuel volume through the fuel indicator tube of the fuel tank and add fuel as the work condition. Model of diesel. GB252 light diesel recommended diesel label. Number 0 diesel. The ambient temperature is more than and equal to 4 degrees. Number 10 diesel. The ambient temperature is from -5 degrees to -4 degrees. Number 20 diesel. The ambient temperature is from -14 degrees to -5 degrees. Number 35 diesel. The ambient temperature is from -29 degrees to -14 degrees. 3. Check of coolant liquid level. Note: when the engines are working with its connecting pipeline and parts of very high temperature, without cooling inspection and maintenance, the burning accident shall occur. The water-adding covers of the radiators shall be opened after cooling. The liquid level shall not be less than 60 mm below the water-adding filter. Check frequency. Before or after the operation. The amount specified until overflow from the water-adding filter. Model of coolant. Number -45 ethylene glycol heavy load engine coolant. 4. Shift maintenance of the engine. 1. Clean the dust and grass clippings on the radiator, as the harvester's working environment is relatively bad. When harvesting, there are lots of dust and grass clippings. The radiator should be filled with grass clippings, and the dust will affect the cooling of water tanks, so it needs to be cleaned up before each operation, which is best cleaning by 2 times in each shift. 2. Perform a maintenance according to the air filter instructions. The maintenance method is as follows. 1. Remove the paper filter elements and tap the surface or sweep off the surface dust with a soft brush. 2. If conditions available, remove dust by the method that 0.4 to 0.5 megapascal compressed air flushes filter elements back. 3. Do not use any oil or water to clean the paper filter elements. Note: when the paper filter elements are maintained by 2 to 3 times, or the assembly resistance is still more than 6 kilopascal after the maintenance, they shall be replaced with new filter elements. If the paper filter elements are replaced by 2 to 3 times, the safety elements should be replaced once and the inside of the air filter should be cleaned. 3. Check the engine oil level in each shift. 8. Lubrication of combined harvester. In order to extend the service life and the using economy of the machine, all friction pairs need to be timely and carefully lubricated. 1. The lubricating operation should be carried out by bearing position and lubrication table of lubricating point position main view and lubricating point position top view. 2. The lubricants should be placed in a clean container and prevent dust from entering. Keep oil guns and other refilling equipment clean. 3. Before filling oil, all oil, clean oil filter, and their surrounding places should be wiped off. 4. Always check the sealing conditions of the bearing and its operating temperature rising. Due to poor performance of sealing and temperature rising of working lubricating shall be timely performed, and the lubrication period shall be shortened correspondingly. 5. All transmission chains mounted on the external places should be lubricated. Lubricating shall be processed when the car is stopped. Finally, remove the dust on the chain and lubricate oil with a brush. 6. The manipulation pull rod movable joint and the bar linkage movable joint should be lubricated by engine oil. 7. The gearbox shall be cleaned after test running and change oil. Then, check the oil once a week and change the oil once a year. 8. Check the oil surface of the hydraulic oil tank each shift and put the header to the ground for changing oil. Then, release all the oil and replace it with new oil. 9. When examining combined harvester, you shall firstly clean up the rolling bearing and inject grease. 10. Bearing position and insufficient lubricating acquires lubricating cycle. The lubricating cycle should be adjusted according to the actual situation. 9. Utilization and maintenance of V-belt. In order to extend the service life of V-belt, you shall pay attention to the following questions for using. 1. You shall release the V-belt tensioner first when loading or unloading the V-belt and should not load or unload it with force. 2. When installing the belt pulley, the deviation of the symmetry center plane of V-belt groove in the same circuit should not be more than 0.3% of the center distance. Generally, short center distance deviation of 2 to 3 mm is permitted, and center distance deviation of 3 to 4 mm is permitted. 3. Tensity of the V-belt shall be checked frequently. The new V-belt is easy to be stretched in the first few days, so it shall be checked and adjusted in time. 4. The V-belt should be relaxed when the machine is not used for a long time. 5. The V-belt should not be stained with oil stain and shall be cleaned with soap water in case of oil stain. 6. Pay attention that the operating temperature of the V-belt should not be too high, generally for not more than 50 to 60 degrees. 7. The V-belt should be working on both sides. For example, if the bottom of the belt is contacting and friction with the bottom of the groove, the V-belt was gone to wear and tear, and it shall be replaced. 8. Clean up the debris in the pulley frequently to avoid corrosion and reduce wear and tear between V-belt and the belt pulley. 9. When the belt pulley is rotated, it shall not be large swing phenomenon. In case of reducing the service life of the tape, when the belt pulley is swing rotated, check the cause and replace it if necessary. 10. When the belt wheel rim is notched, it shall be replaced in time. 11. V-belt should be saved in a cool, dry place, and hanging must avoid winding. 10. Utilization and maintenance of chain. 1. The sprockets in the same drive circuit shall be installed on the same plane. Its gear teeth center plane position deviation should be no more than 0.2%. Generally, short center distance is 1.2 to 2 mm, and the larger center distance is 1.8 to 2.5 mm. 2. The tensity of chain should be moderate. 3. When installed chain, the chain end can be around with sprocket to connect the chain link. The chain links should be worn from the inside of the chain to the outside, so that the connecting plate and the locking fasteners can be installed from the outside. 4. That the chain will be extended after using, and if the tensioning device is not tight enough, you can remove 2 chain links and continue to use. 5. The chain should be lubricated on time. 6. Old and new chain links should not be used in one chain. In case of the impact, cause by different pitch of old and new chain link and damage the chain. 7. Seriously wore and tore sprocket should not be equipped with a new chain so as to avoid the transmission sub-pitch difference. To quickly wear and tear the new chain. 8. The chain shall be unloaded for cleaning and oil coating when the machine is stored and be put in dry place. 11. Shift maintenance of the combine harvester. 1. The machine must be kept in a good technical condition, and the parts should be adjusted as required. 2. Check the lubricating system of the harvester and inject oil in time as required. 3. Check whether the bolt, nut, and other fastener is loose. 4. Check whether there's any sealing off or crack phenomenon of each weldment, and correct and repair the damaged parts. 5. Check whether the operation parts are flexible and reliable. 6. Check whether there's wear and tear, damage and looseness of the guard and blade, and check the interval of the cutter. 7. Check the tensity of the conveyor chain. 8. Check the tensity of the V-belt, because either too loose or too tight will shorten its service life. 9. Check the tensity of the transmission chain. 10. Check the oil level of hydraulic system oil tank. Check whether the joints have oil leak and the work situation between each executive component. 11. Check the coolant level of the water tank and add coolant in time. 12. Check whether the braking system is reliable. 13. Completely check and clean the blocking, such as winding grass, glooms, crushed stems, etc., between each parts of the combine harvester. In particular, firstly clean the blocking of reel, cutters, screw conveyors header, conveyor trowels, and clean screens. Deposition of the left and right sides of the concave trigonal area in the thrashing chamber. Dear user, please carefully use and timely maintenance of the LOVOL Gushen harvester to keep its technical in good state.